am Robert D. Fleece. You know who I am. Waiting on Kevin because Kevin had some tech issues, but this is the WrestleZone Daily. I believe Kevin's voice is here. His face is still not here.
I'm still not here. You still can't physically see me?
No, you need to switch your camera over to the camera that you chose last night. Switch it to the webcam first, Kevin.
Now
there
can
you go. Me? Now I can see you. There you go.
All right, good. We'll go with this for a while. I don't know what's going on. Usually my normal camera works. What's up, everybody? It's WrestleZone Daily on a Tuesday. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing pretty darn swell, Kevin. How are you?
We got a lot to get into. We have some big news involving a WWE legend, a man who goes by one name and one name only.
I'm going to be nitpicky and say, I don't know if I call him a WWE legend, but he's definitely a wrestling legend.
He's in their Hall of Fame, Robert. You're being picky. Man, you are so picky this week.
So is Abdullah the Butcher, and he never stepped foot in a WWE ring. Don't give me that.
They own his tape. If I want to watch any match of this superstar, I'm gonna go to the WWE network. So he's a WWE superstar.
Well, since you cut me off, I was gonna hype up the speculators in the audience. But geez, I was gonna say this man might not be a WWE legend, but he is a wrestling legend.
Yes.
And I dare say he is an elite level legend.
Oh, we're gonna get into that already? We didn't even jump to it yet?
We're gonna go right there, Kevin. Who am I talking about?
We're talking about a man called Sting. And how his business relationship with WWE is done. We'll talk about that. We will also cover, as we're on air today, the situation with Becky Lynch and how that is evolving. How we learned some very, very big news about her on Monday Night Raw. If you haven't checked it out yet, check out our Raw post show. So here's how WrestleZone Daily works every single week. We stream to you on Facebook and YouTube Monday through Thursday. We'll be on after Raw. Tuesday afternoons late after that. And then Wednesdays we're on after NXT and AEW. Thursday we do kind of a wrap-up of the week with your questions, and obviously we take questions every single day. Let's get into our big leadoff story. Sting is done with WWE. What's the latest, Robert?
Well, this started speculating yesterday after Mattel said they would no longer be releasing an action figure of his due to circumstances beyond their control. And Cody Rhodes just stirred that pot by tweeting that famous gif of the camera zooming in on him with his ear cupped in his ear. And today, Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet, who has a well-known relationship with WWE, broke a lot of stories for them, like their redone schedule, their taping on the roof for Money in the Bank. And he broke the news. Sting is no longer employed by WWE. He's no longer under contract of any kind.
Obviously the speculation then, if you have Cody, who's a vice president of All Elite Wrestling, the biggest competitor in the United States for WWE right now in terms of a TV audience, and basically the only other really actively televised at this moment, first run content company near WWE. MLW is still out there. But I mean, All Elite Wrestling has been in their crosshairs now for a long time, about a better part of a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And they're going for Sting. If they're doing that, I don't think we are far from the idea that they would want to do something with him. Now, does that mean they get him under a full-fledged deal?
Well, they've had Bret Hart on their shows,
and Bret Hart still has a good relationship with WWE as much as he can be.
They have Jake the Snake as a regular part of their television. They have Tully Blanchard. They have Arn Anderson. What I'm trying to say is they like themselves some wrestling history.
Right. And they like themselves some WCW guys.
Specifically, Cody likes himself some WCW guys. And I am fully on the record. I think there are already discussions, speculation on my behalf, but I think there are already discussions for Sting and Cody to be doing like, hey, why don't you present the winner of the TNT Championship with the title? Hey, how about you mentor Darby Allin? I think Sting is at least talking.
Now the thing is with Sting is his time in WWE was really built around a handful of matches. He had the big match with Triple H, which some fans enjoyed the nostalgia of it because it was really built around the nostalgia of a WCW guy versus a WWE guy. The run-in from the NWO, the run-in from the DX at WrestleMania a few years ago. It had a big
Right.
build. They sold a bunch of merchandise with him. Then he had the angle with Seth Rollins, and he suffered a very, very serious neck injury and a good match. It was a very, very good match for a guy in his 50s to have, right?
I'd say
And
so.
and that was a dangerous, dangerous injury that he said ended his career. That was it, and he went in the Hall of Fame. But then after that, people were saying he looks good. He wants to be a part of some physical angle. He wants to do something, and it never kind of fostered it. And, people say the missed opportunity with him in WWE obviously was the match with Undertaker that a lot of fans have wanted for a long, long time. You and I wanted to get to this before someone else brought it up. But it's one of those things that pops up all the time every year with WrestleMania. Are they going to do Sting versus Undertaker? I would say that's not a possibility now.
Yeah, I don't think you understand. And we got a facetious comment here from Brian Dawson that says Sting is 100. Who cares? Sting is not 100, and many people care about Sting.
Yeah,
but Sting is like 65.
He's not. I don't know if he's 65. He's in his 50s.
No, I'm almost certain he's in his 60s.
All right. Well, whatever Sting does, I don't think it's going to be all that physical. And if he does go to AEW, he does do something. First off, the pop for it is going to be insane because that is a diehard, lifelong. What?
He's 61.
He's 61. But I heard some people saying he looks great. But that's not a guy who's going to go out on the road every week, and that's not a guy who's going to wrestle more than a handful of matches. At the same time, you had Diamond Dallas Page out there doing a 6-man tag match for them. 4 or 5 months ago. They love the nostalgia pops. That is a hardcore audience. They aren't going to do it all the time. But if they got Sting, whoo boy, they would love it. They would love it.
I think it's fair to say we lived through it. It's happened. Sting and WWE were never meant to be.
What do you mean they were never meant to be?
I think it's sort of like a checking off the bucket list, and I'm glad he got Mania. Don't get me wrong. He's a guy who belonged at Mania, but I think that it shows that had he not made the move, it wouldn't have made a vast difference to his own career. Had he not.
I also think that's kind of circumstantial. I think if he didn't get hurt, we would have gotten the Undertaker match. And I think so much of it is based on that injury. I think he wanted to do more.
I think it's very safe to bet that Dallas, Texas, 2016, 100,000 people were supposed to see Sting versus The Undertaker. But, fate intervened, and it is what it is.
We were supposed to get Sting and Undertaker that first year he was there, and they opted to go in a different direction and maybe hold off on having that match and build to it for a longer time. But it's coulda, woulda, shoulda. I think he got a great documentary. They did some really great nostalgia content with him on the network. If you want to check it out, and if you want to check out anything with him, it's on the network. Some people text in their favorite matches from Sting. His stuff with, of course, Flair. His matches with Flair. His first one on Clash of the Champions. He had a match with WCW NWA early '90s with Great Muta that I'm particularly fond of as well. Scott George texting, maybe WWE will have him back for a one-off with The Undertaker. Comes back at WrestleMania.
I need this to no. No, I need it to stop. It's not happening. He's done with the company. It's not going to happen, guys. Let's let it go.
People with different takes here. Sting should have not lost to Triple H at WrestleMania. It's ridiculous.
I think
that they did that.
And if you search YouTube, there's a clip from Arn Anderson's podcast about Arn talking about how that match was presented. And I think he says it better than most in saying that a lot of that was just to kind of rub it in Sting's face that he had never gone. And so it is what it is.
But in that match, they treat him with respect, though, at the same time.
They did treat him with respect, but it was also so clearly this is about Sting being a WCW guy, and that is what it is. Wow. But he's not with the company anymore. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Do we have something there? Did something come down the wire,
No,
Robert?
no, no, no.
I've been on air with you when I've gotten the face before. We got a big O face last night. I don't mean like hang on. Oh, stop it. I was about to sneeze, and I mean an oh wow face, not that O face. Why are you making references, Robert? That is disgusting. You are making references to the film Office Space. Robert, that is disgusting. Your reference to that. Becky Lynch opening Monday Night Raw, announcing that she's no longer the Raw Women's Champion. She relinquishes the title. The Raw Women's Championship was actually inside Money in the Bank, which I thought was a very, very clever way to get themselves out of a situation where Becky Lynch announces that she's pregnant. The line that we're all going to remember, you go be a warrior, I'm going to go be a mother.
Again, for me, the memory is Asuka going, mother? Like, Asuka's joy then brought joy to me, and it was just a beautiful moment. And I saw a WCW alumni really crap on this segment, saying,
Who was it? Who was it?
I'm not going to say his name. Of course it was. Say that Nitro's ratings wouldn't have been as good if people had congratulated Flair for having a child. It's like, what kind of nonsense do people get off on? This is such a beautiful moment. Just let the woman have her moment. And I thought it was great. It's right up there for me with the Roman Reigns "I'm in remission, y'all" for like the most heartwarming Monday Night Raw moment ever.
Yeah, it was definitely the highlight of the show. It added some extra points to a pretty eventful show. But this does leave a big hole for WWE here. This isn't just any superstar. This is one of the biggest names in the company. This is up there. You have Roman Reigns on the shelf for we don't know how long. Okay. John Cena is now absolutely a part-timer that you're going to get like The Rock going forward. Brock Lesnar is Brock Lesnar. You're only going to get him a handful of times a year, right? We're in an era with the coronavirus where you can't really use these people to pop a live gate, and you're not going to really be able to get them on the road a whole lot.
Right.
So the factor of Becky Lynch was she was easily the most popular female talent in the company.
She's easily the most popular talent. I have no shame in saying she's losing Roman, losing Becky. You lost your two biggest full-time stars, and that is a bit concerning.
And it wasn't the plan. I don't think this is something you can hold against WWE in one way or another. I don't think this was the plan, was to lose them. But also, look how many other circumstantial challenges does every entertainment company have now. Look at the curveballs that are being thrown and the curveballs that are being thrown back. And I mean that in the general world of entertainment. And WWE is throwing some curveballs now. The licensing agreements they have with Fox tonight, WrestleMania 3 is going to be on the Fox Sports 1 network. And I'm going to do something fun, by the way, before I forget about this. I have to mention this. I'm going to tweet as if it was 1987 tonight on WrestleZone's Twitter account. So do the watch along with us. We're going to try this for the first time. I'm going to tweet in real time as if 1987 is the year that we are in and Twitter is a thing.
Boy, that car phone of yours is pretty fancy.
Oh, dude, I have a very powerful car phone. I have to punch in every number, so that's really hard. Car phone. And I don't even know if they had car phones in 1987. I was 4. Robert's like doing the math there.
I'm not doing the math, but the other people are.
But the entertainment world is being thrown these curveballs here, and how do you think they respond? They're dealing with so many different challenges at one time right now. Now you lost 2 big active names with the company.
I am interested as a whole in the way this is remembered 20 years from now. I'm interested to see if we get documentaries 20 years from now that are like, oh, this era was so groundbreaking for WWE, because that this is just hitting them as like a Mike Tyson uppercut to the jaw. Like this has to suck for them.
We haven't seen a whole lot of Becky since WrestleMania. So, do you think maybe this was planned at some point?
I think that, well, if you read
Because
the,
I mean, at that point, we're getting into family planning. We're getting into the idea of whether anyone was planning on having children at a certain point.
if you read the Becky Lynch interview with People, I would say that they didn't plan it, but they knew about mid-April that, hey, something's up.
Okay. A couple of texts like, "Hey, running late." You get those texts from a girl? It's you have to be specific and ask, "Wait, what type of late are we talking about here?" Okay. So that is something worth talking about here. So what is next for the women in WWE? I think Asuka finds herself in a good position, but Asuka is I wouldn't say it no spring chicken. I want to say that she's a transitional champion. She's held every title or every prize that you can win in WWE as a female performer. Yet people are still going to bitch about how she's booked, right? So Asuka now has the championship. Does this put a little bit more pressure on Asuka, or does it put more pressure on the entire women's division in general? I would say it puts pressure on the entire women's division in general, not one individual player.
And I'm going to, again, go and say not just the women. I think there's pressure on anybody who is currently active in the coronavirus era of wrestling.
Good take.
You better step it up, because you have the opportunity to pick up a fumbled ball and completely run. There's got to be a lot of pressure all around.
So a lot of people with different takes here. Noel Orlando Roland. I have to roll my R's. He's with the top stars of WWE gone. They should put superstars on both shows. No split draft until they start to travel again. Robert,
we
went into that. All right. So for diehards of the show, if you have not checked out our post Raw episode, Robert and I got the F into it.
Yeah.
About the whether or not WWE is in sync with the brand split. Why are we getting guys from SmackDown on Raw and guys from Raw on SmackDown? And it was quite the argument. I highly suggest it goes on in the first 20 minutes of our episode. It is up in the podcast feed, WrestleZone Radio. Also interviews up there with Christian and John Moxley from their upcoming movie Cage Fighter Worlds Collide, which premieres this week on Fight TV.
Not in America, though. I don't know where it's premiering in America.
Fight.tv, you can get it internationally, so go check it out there if you're watching outside of the United States. But Robert and I were not happy with each other. Very, very mad about that here. So a lot of different pivots here. Does WWE pivot? Does someone get a push that you don't think we were expecting to get a push? I mean, WWE is trying to do a bunch of different things and make people look like a threat going into Money in the Bank. They tried to develop Tamina into a big threat for Bayley. They had a match. I didn't think it was a super outstanding match. It was certainly the biggest match of Tamina's career. She's always been a solid hand for WWE. I don't mean that in any disrespectful way, but I don't think she ever screams top of the card. Does a Dana Brooke get an elevation here? Do they go to somebody they know can deliver that superstar personality that they like a Sasha Banks, who always has an active online following?
I think they go to people they think can deliver, but it's up to those with the opportunity to, again, step it up and grab the ball, because it's anybody's for the taking right now. Man, woman, it doesn't matter. Take control of this thing and take us to the next level, because you have a chance.
And obviously we saw some kind of rollout from this in terms of how they want to play this into Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch obviously have a very publicized relationship together, and they both did that interview, as you mentioned, with people.com. Seth suffered a big loss. He could not defeat Drew McIntyre in a very competitive match I don't think people should forget about at Money in the Bank. And then he tried to gnaw out Rey Mysterio's eye with the corner of the ring steps, which I thought was a very creative, violent element used there. And then he kind of came out of the trance of this on Monday Night Raw after a tag team match. What do you think of this here? I have to reload my screen here, Robert. Go ahead.
I think that it was a great usage of Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking forward to seeing the eventual where does he fall on the morality spectrum. I Seth Rollins, again, another guy who's doing phenomenal work. He recently spoke to, I believe, TalkSport and said that he felt as though he was dead in the water following the feud with Bray Wyatt. I thought that was very candid, very unusual of
Mm-hmm.
him to say so. And now he's got another chance to step it up here.
I got a problem on my screen. It's like super focused on everything here. Keep going, Rob. I'm going to be right back with you, okay?
All right, and I see some comments here from Kevin Durgan that says Seth Rollins is a Richard. I don't know if Seth Rollins is Richard. I Sean Smith says this frees up some money, and potentially, I can't imagine that they're just going to cut Becky from contract, but maybe definitely pay her a lesser rate. I don't know anything about WWE's financials, so who really knows? I see a comment from Thomas Billet that says, "What's Seth Rollins' real problem with Rey Mysterio? Rey congratulated him, and Rollins flipped later on." I mentioned this yesterday that Rey was the first person to also go up and hug Becky. Who knows if that's going to be something that they play into or not? But there is going to be a lot of you know what's going on with Seth Rollins. I think that's his character going forward. Let's see. Jason Michael Campbell says that year. Well, that's you're talking about WrestleMania 3, which will be on the air tonight on FS1 in about an hour, actually. Kevin Durgan saying it's not Seth's baby, it's Drew's. Kevin, you can't just make these assumptions. And Shadwa says, I miss the old days. Great wrestling at Madison Square Garden. I am from New York. I will always have a special place in my heart for Madison Square Garden. I think it's bar none the best venue for wrestling ever. But that's just my take. I'm sure if Kevin was here, he would say the Allstate Arena in Chicago. Let's see. Why don't you guys throw me some questions? It's kind of a lighter news day. We got that Sting story, which there may or may not be more to that, but we'll see as time goes. Let's see. Asuka versus Charlotte at SummerSlam. I like this idea, Sean Smith. I like the idea of Asuka versus Charlotte at SummerSlam. I actually wish Charlotte was the one who shared the moment with Becky in the ring, but I think that Asuka made it a very beautiful moment. Let's see. Andy Bolger, first time I'm seeing your name, so thanks for tuning in. What's the deal with Drew shaking Seth's hand? I think they want to tell the story of Drew really loving the sport of professional wrestling. So I think that's what that was. And Seth Rollins shaking his hand might be a sign of not him being a tweener, but maybe he's a little morally confused at the moment. Okay, let's see. What else you guys got? Hit me with some questions. What do you expect from Otis? Will he go for the tag team titles or will Mandy screw him for the Money in the Bank briefcase? I expect Otis to be the first guy since Mr. Kennedy to defend that thing and lose it, but we will see how that happens as Kevin rejoins us. Kevin,
Yeah.
how are you doing here?
I'm doing good. Sorry about that tech issue there. You ever do the thing on your computer where it like zooms in on something and you can't get it to zoom off unless you have to like reload the page? So that happened to me. I'm sorry about that. But we're already jumping at questions. It's a Tuesday. We like to get very engaged on the questions because we have a lot of like flowing stories. We don't have big breaking news today. I do want to get into what's going on with AEW. Big street fight last week. Memed like crazy. We had Kenny Omega doing moonsaults off cherry pickers. We had a man getting hit with a golf cart. Matt Hardy transforming into two different characters. Quite the debut for him.
Here's the deal, folks. Just shoot me your question, and I'll take your question. You got to look at the AEW stuff that I cover AEW every Wednesday here on WrestleZone. So that's a great website on there, Friday through Sunday. Check that out. But I'm mostly here in the zone. So AEW, I'm a big fan. I like where they're going. I like Moxley versus Brody Lee at Double or Nothing. I think that's a great match with intrigue, but it's not something that is like a first time ever that feels like it would be missing an audience because Moxley and Lee have fought each other before. Luke Harper and Dean Ambrose had plenty of matches in front of people, so I think it's a good pick to go for. Let's see. Robert, I've been watching classic Memphis wrestling. Who would be